Welcome back to the ultimate upper lower training plan. This is going to be lower one. We're going to run through everything you need, the exercise, the reps, the sets, the reason for the movements and the layout. You're going to love this. It's a very different lower today what you will see elsewhere. Without further ado, we're just going to crack into this. This training plan is what I've run for over half a year. It's going to get you insane results. You can use it if you're bulking, you're cutting. It's going to get you an insane aesthetic physique, just like your man yourself. I've done it with hundreds of clients, different hybrid variations of this. And you're going to see today on the lower session how we really tailor this more and more as we go to suit you and other people. So without further ado, let's kick it. Look, you will love to hear this. We're hitting biceps first on a lower day because we're trying to prioritize them growing. So whenever we put them first on a leg day rather than last on an upper day, we're able to go in there fresh, fully motivated, and bring the maximum amount of intensity. This is the reason why you'll see people put squats, bench press first on sessions. On your leg day, people usually do leg days, hack squats. We do biceps because they're more important. But in reality, if you have any weak point like calves or delts, it's a really good place to put that actual work. First movement, we're doing face away cable curls. You want to set up the cable so that the cable starts around knee height. This is going to be able to give you a really big stretch in your biceps. So whenever you're doing this movement, you want to make sure that your elbow is behind you throughout the entire movement. So even as you curl, that elbow stays fixed in place. You want to imagine there's a bolt for it. Now, as you curl up, you really want to focus on curling the letter C, getting a big squeeze, and then controlling the negative. Now, really small tip that I never see anyone give is you want to make sure that your hand is cocked the entire time. You will see a lot of people in incline curls, and they'll allow their wrist to flex back. And over time, what this causes is it does cause wrist pain. You won't notice it now, but you will notice it down the line. And there's somebody watching this right now, I can guarantee they have that. And it's because on curls, they're not keeping their wrist in the same place, or they're pressing or not. Keep your wrist in line, and that will help so much. Curl up, squeeze the top, control the negative, and you will get a wicked pump on this. What I want you to do is I want you to focus on 3 sets of 7 to 10 reps with 2 minutes break between. Control the negative, pause at the bottom, pause at the top. That is the face away cable curl done. Boom. Next up, we're going into a reverse curl, which a lot of people don't love. But I think if you're really looking to work your biceps, you're going to want a range of movements, and this will also bring in your forearms, which is going to give you that arm, that more complete look. So with a reverse curl, this is not a movement I would normally program. You can always swap this out for just a normal dumbbell curl if you want, and that'll probably work your biceps a little bit more. But for me, I want to bring up that little bit of forearm. So reverse curls. With this movement, we really want to focus on the cables being set up so I can get a full stretch at the bottom, full parallel, curl up, pause at the top. And you want to ensure, for me, that I have my thumb on the same side. I just noticed that I feel my forearm more. This just is a mental cue that really helps. Squeeze the top, control the negative. Here, I do 2 sets, 8 to 12 reps. And I think there's very few things more impressive. And you don't always see your upper arm if you're wearing something. Like sometimes it can be covered. You always see the forearms. They're like your calves. They're so important, and they show so much of an individual. They show how hard you really train. And as usual, on every movement, we will be doing 2 to 3 minutes rest. I shouldn't even need to say it at this stage. Remember, every movement, 2 to 3 minutes. That is like the gold standard. Now we start off with legs. And as I said, the most important body part on the lower body for me is your calves. You always see them in shorts. I think they're super impressive, and most men don't have them big enough. So we're doing a Stanton calf raise. If you really want to grow your calves fastest, you want to focus on movements where you have a straight leg. This is going to really work the aesthetic and outside part, the gastrocnemius of your calf. So whenever we do any straight leg calf raise in the leg press, Stanton machine, I want to highlight that the most important thing you can do is pause at the bottom. Your Achilles tendon is probably the most elastic in the body. So if you do not pause at the bottom, what you do is you don't use as much of the calf as you'd want. You actually bounce out using the tendon. And then that's when you notice people pick up niggles here. They overload and they don't do a full range. So I want you to pause at the bottom, full dead stop for a two count. 1, 2, like that long, like at least that. Then power up. And what I want you to notice is at the top of the movement, whenever you do a calf raise, whenever you do the rep, there's always an extra little inch. And every inch counts. You should know that. I know that for sure. And I want you to imagine I've always given this cue of, imagine you're looking over your fence, at your neighbor, and she is naked. You would rise up on your tippy toes, and then there'll be a little bit more you can get. So there's always that bit more. So control the negative, a 2 to 3 count the way down, 2 at the bottom, and explode up. Calves should hurt. You can do this barefoot, but I do find that usually you feel a bit off because you can't get stability. You can do it in a leg press. As long as your legs are straight, I think you'll get the best from this. We're gonna look 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, 2 minutes rest, and I really do mean this. Bring calves the full way. Most people don't bring them to true failure or close to it, and then that's why they don't grow. Remember, it's about form, but it's also about intensity. We all know that person that trains really hard, has a terrible training program, but they're big. Because they train hard, they overload, and over time that works. Now, into the actual leg work of the session. We're gonna start with seated hamstring curl. Even if you wanted to train legs first, I would still put a seated hamstring curl first. The reason for this is I think it's a really good mental warm up for your legs, okay? It's really good for your knees, your hips, and I also find it just warms up the entire lower body. I always notice I get less niggles, and I lift more weight on my so-called compound movements, my hack squats, my squats, after I do hamstring curls initially. So I always do them first. That's why I'm probably a bit more dominant on my hamstrings, because they're prioritized, but it's because of how good it feels. So whenever you set up a seated hamstring curl, and the reason for this over a line is I feel like it will make you grow better. It's given me far better results. It gives you a really nice lengthened part. You're in that seated position. It just biomechanically, it's like the goat of growing your hamstrings, in my honest opinion. If I had to pick one movement for hamstring growth, this would be it. So as we set this up, you want the back pad so that you're actually relatively close, because you want to be able to brace against the buckle in part, the actual strap down where what would you call the knee restraint? That's the proper name for it. So you want the knee restraint in as tight as humanly possible, as tight as you can get that, because you want no movement there, you want no jig, and you want to be able to brace your hands against it, push back, so you are buckled in. And you will see people use seat belts here. For me, I think it's a bit overkill. I used to do that stuff, not anymore. I'm about what's easy in my life. And then I want you to focus on getting a really big stretch. That is so important. A lot of hamstring curls won't give you that, and that can be very frustrating, but it's super important you get a big stretch at the top. And I want you to stabilize and drive down hard, making sure you get the full range at the bottom and the top. Control the reps, and I want you to do between 6 to 12 reps. I know that's a big rep range, but I think this needs that because it's going to be give and take. Okay, and that's really important. We want 2 minutes rest, 2 sets is enough, and your hamstrings will be dusted. Onto our compound movement. We're using a hack squat here. Now, this hack squat looks old, but is phenomenal. This is such a good Cybex hack squat. Now, something I want to highlight to you is I could tell you to hack squat, but you might not have a hack squat, or your hack squat could be terrible in your gym. Now, a lot of men will default to a leg press because they can overload it and they do half reps without training really as close to failure as possible. I love a hack squat because you can really pretty much bring it to failure. Now, in this video, I'm going to be honest, this is not a full working set of me. I wanted to go through form on this, and I recorded this after, okay? So whenever you do this, because I forgot to record mid-session, the same as the hamstring curls, so I'm not perfect. I know it's hard to believe. So whenever you do a hack squat, I want you to set it up that you can get full range. Most people don't go below 90-degree bend at the knee, but we want to go as deep as you can physically go and keep your back as tight to that pad as possible. You will notice that I round slightly forward. I almost tense my core and buckle in like I'm bracing like a camber bar squat. And I notice that I'm able to get deeper and I can feel my quads more. Now, you want to control the negative, pause at the bottom, but don't rest. You notice if you go too deep, you can actually there's no tension. You want to make sure there's tension on your quads, and then you want to drive up through the mid part of your foot. This is going to really help focus on quads. Whenever you want to hit glutes, you push through the heel. Quads, you want to focus on the mid foot. Now, as you drive up, I think one of the biggest things for me is you'll see a lot of people rest at the top of a hack squat. I think one of the best things you can do if you can keep in your mind is don't spend too long up there. You want to keep constant tension, because whenever you think about it, at the top of it, there's no tension. So if that's the easiest part of the rep, we want to spend the least amount of time there. It's like in a bicep curl. If I asked you where to grow your biceps, would you spend all the time at the bottom of the rep? No. So on a hack squat, you should not spend 2 to 3 seconds hopping and popping, maybe here and there, but remember, you want to reset, get your core right, but try and keep it fluid. I find that this burdens the quads immensely. And all we want here is 6 to 10 reps, 2 minutes as usual. You're noticing a theme, and I want to highlight that to you. Now we're going to move on to the bunda. Look, you need a bit of glutes. This is going to work a little bit of quads, a little bit of glutes. You can do this in a Smith machine. I'm doing it in a split squat stance here just to make it easy because a lot of people don't have access to it. I normally do my working sets in a Smith machine, but I'm gonna set up the exact same here, okay? So the way that we wanna set this up is you wanna bench and you wanna plug your back foot into the bench. Now, if you're unsure of the overall stance here, the best way to do it is if you wanna work your glutes, you don't want your knee going over your toe, okay? When your knee goes over your toe, that's usually a sign we're gonna get more quads. With glutes, we want to ensure that the sort of shin stays straight up and that the torso leans slightly forward and that we have a decent stance so it feels comfortable. And that way, when we lower down, we're lowering down at a slight angle and then we're powering up through the heel, and that's going to really activate the glutes. Now, don't get me wrong, your quads will kick in. And if you're still taking up this stance and feel your quads, it might just be that your glutes are really strong and your quads are weak. And that's why your quads are kicking in, because they're not fit for it. If you want to target more quads, be upright and bring your stance closer together. Remember, throughout this movement, you want to control the core, pause at the bottom, get full range. You should almost feel a stretch in the hip flexor that's at the back, and then control every portion of this rep. We want to do 7 to 10 reps. We want to do 2 sets and take that 2 minutes rest. We're going to finish up the leg day with abs, and before we dive into this, you go, but what about quad extensions? What about RDLs? Don't worry, over the week we hit a large range of movements, and remember, it's not about cramming as many movements into one as possible. We need to hit the exercise hard, overload, recover every single week, and repeat this. If you're doing too much in one session, you're thinking, oh, but this and that. You're not thinking about the long term. We're only worried about strength because that is going to be the direct response we get is growth. So if you get stronger, you grow. It's as simple as that. If you're doing loads of volume, you don't necessarily always grow because you'll struggle over time to get stronger, and you'll grow initially, and then you hit a wall and you plateau. And that happens to so many people. Last movement, we're doing a machine crunch. You can do rope, you can do machine, you can do a weighted crunch, a hyperextension crunch. We want something that works the top 4 of the abs. The reason that I'm focusing on these is these are the ones that you're gonna see most. We wanna overload these as well. A lot of people do not treat their abs like other muscle groups. And yes, you can go slightly higher rep ranges, but I still want you to do 8 to 12 reps here, 2 minutes rest. And the main cue I want to give you in any crunch is you want to focus on getting your mouth to your private parts. You want to exhale all the air out, squeeze. And remember, it's a crunch. A lot of people focus on just going forward. We want to focus on crunching in, exhaling all the air out, and then extending, like actually hyperextending. Get a big stretch in your abs, and then curl and squeeze. And that's what's going to really give you a good contraction here. The key is, yes, having the right form and feeling it, but making sure you also overload your abs. Remember, the blockier and thicker your abs are, you will see them at a higher body fat. And the rest is all genetic. Some people say, I don't want blocky abs. They won't change in the overall shape. They'll just get fuller. So you do want that. That's the reason you'll see a lot of the time, I don't look razor lean, but you can always see my abs because they're very blocky from overloading them. And all I want you to do is 3 sets, 8 to 12. That is it. Simple as. And that's the leg day wrapped. That is as good as it gets. Look, I'd really appreciate a like, a share, or subscribe. We're going to run through upper 2 next week, so please make sure you tune in. It means the world. How good is this? How good is this split? So fast, so effective, and I've done this. You bring the intensity, it works.